You said something interesting the other day. You've been a leader in your corporation, and you've been very active politically, including working on negotiations for ANCSA. How was it for you as a woman being involved? And also, the other day you said, I come from a society where I can be a leader, but I can never be chief.
Our Tlingit culture is, we don't have really chiefs. We don't. We are clan-based, and we have clan leaders and caretakers. And in our society, the women cannot be a clan leader. You can do all the work. You can tell the clan leader what he needs to do. But you cannot be the leader. And I have no problem with that. That is our Tlingit culture, and I'll tell you, we have some clan leaders, some men that just have been absolutely wonderful to me over the years, you know, letting me know that they appreciate what I have done for them as long as I do the work and do whatever they say.
I wanted to work on that a little bit more with Brenda. What was the role of Native women, and were they involved in the background negotiations? I mean, were you actually in there and, you know, in those meaty discussions that the men were having about ANCSA?
There were a lot of meetings that occurred, and in our villages traditionally, yes, the men have been in leadership, but in my generation, on the land claims issue, it didn't really matter at the time if you were a man or a woman. What mattered the most was to find our own people who were bilingual and bicultural, because, you know, Barrow, Alaska, and Wainwright, and some of our villages, Kaktovik, are way up north with very little exposure to the Western American way of life. But there were some of us who had exposure, and so we were called upon to represent them, and we participated at the local level and attended many, many meetings. So we were asked by the leaders and many of our elders to assist them, and whatever we spoke came from the people. And at a village level, when it came to discussions on the land claims debate, many times the men would speak, yes, but before the men spoke at the meetings, they often talked to the wives, their families, and, you know, as many people as they could before taking a position on land and our way of life. And it was the same thing for women. If a woman spoke, she did not speak on her behalf alone. It was on behalf of the men and women, the children, the families, and the villages. So that's how our villages and our structure always spoke. One of the other things on leaders, as it relates to leaders, the one thing that I really wanted to share was something that one of my mentors, I had a few mentors. I was really blessed with some elders that I always went to in my village to ask for advice. And one of them was Harold Kavialuk. And to this date in Kaktovik, there's a school that's named after him, the Harold Kavialuk School. And I asked him when I was fairly young, how did our people select or appoint people into leadership? What were the traits and characteristics and qualities that our people looked for in a leader? Because at the time we didn't really have elections or campaigns or money or that sort of thing, but nevertheless we had a very structured society, our way of life. And the response he gave to me was, and I'd like to pass this on to any of our young people here who are vying to go into leadership with the hopes that it might help you as it helped me. And what Harold said was, in order for a person to be a leader, he or she has to be proven in this area. And he said, excuse me, Ilu in my language means what's inside of you, in your heart, your spirit. Ilu muturnek is a person's ability to speak the truth from your heart. Ilu muturnek. And before a person can be a leader, he or she had to be proven that individual spoke the truth, got the facts before speaking. So that was a very important quality, a very important characteristic that our leaders kept in mind before asking us, the younger generation, to help them. I did not know that until I was a little bit older. And then the other two things that he said were, and I think that was very prevalent and among all of our Alaska Native people in light of the huge opposition and resistance we got during the land claims fight. And that was, the word that he used was manimminyak. Manimminyak means the ability of an individual to stand on the truth even though there's huge opposition and even though at times you might feel alone. As long as it's based on the truth and it's going to benefit our people, manimminyak is a person who can endure hardship and still stand. So a person who never gives up. The third one, real quick, is Igilutornik is a person who has the ability to stand firm on the truth as long as it benefits our people. And those are some of the characteristics that I saw statewide with men and women who fought for the land claims. And those, we had a lot in common, the land, our subsistence, as well as wonderful cultural values of compassion. There were so many compassionate people. Her people were so compassionate toward us, and we always appreciate them. The National Congress of American Indians, when we traveled, they gave their wholehearted support to AFN when we asked for them. The Yakima Indian Nation, traditional chief Bob Jim and his tribe, they graciously gave a huge loan to AFN because we didn't have a cash economy at the time. So anyway, those are some of the cultural values that were pretty prevalent. We had a lot of those in common statewide.
We'll have to talk a little bit about that collateral thing too later, but I wanted to ask Agnes, was there ever, did people ever feel like giving up? I know there were a lot of meetings that occurred. There was the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, there were congressmen, senators. I mean, you were dealing with the Vice President, Secretary of the Interior. Did you ever get a sense that people got really frustrated with all of the different versions that came about and wanted to throw up their hands and just say the heck with it?
Generally speaking, no. People were very, very resilient. And keep in mind, some of us were a little bit younger, more enthusiastic. But we had, and you asked earlier about women, and I want to mention some of the names of the women I remember. Of course, Frances has been around since day one, as have these other ladies. But up here we had, remember Jerry Brown's mother? You remember her? Yes. She spoke so strongly and steadfastly for the Kenai area, as did Rika Murphy. And then we had Shirley Tucker from Eklutna. And if I started to name off all the names, it would probably take too long. But those women, and some of them had children at home, no resources necessarily, but they did what had to be done. And Alice Brown's daughter, Elva, remember Elva, who worked at AFN? She worked late nights, all by herself. And back when we didn't have the technology we have now. And getting everything ready so that literally papers were going in hands as people were getting on airplanes. And we took up collections for plane fares. I was a young mother during those early days, and I would go and pick up people at the airport even if I had never met them before. Got them to where they had to go, and sometimes even took them to my house for lunch. And that's the way we did it. But no, I don't think that there was necessarily any sense of, oh, this is too much work and we're going to give up. I think there were some small differences about what we might want as an outcome for our own particular area, but we got over those hurdles and persevered.